moving on to a topic, Neelashi, that has gained a lot of traction recently. So, after 15 years of negotiations, India and the EFTA states, they signed a trade and economic partnership agreement recently. So, it's also the first one to be signed with the European bloc, if I'm not wrong. What implications do you think does this landmark deal hold for um, India's economic strategy and its relationship with with European nations?
So that's also very interesting because we were just at the Swiss embassy a few days back, and right
Mhm.
after this was, of course, signed. There is a lot of, I think it is commendable what we have managed to achieve. In the last 1.5 years, there have been marathon meetings and negotiations to make this happen. So I think it is commendable that it has actually come to fruition.
Mhm.
Um, and I think in terms of the impact, what is very unique about this agreement is that it also comes with its own set of, there are two aspects to it actually. One is, of course, that if I think for India, it is very important that if we give you X, we also get Y in return. And I think this agreement completely, encapsulates that spirit of reciprocity between our two um, nations and blocks, if we can call EFTA that. And secondly, what is interesting is that EFTA also comes with a binding clause for that block to invest $100 billion um, in India in the next few years, which will be monitored and reviewed after 15 years. So this is actually very unique for a trade agreement to also have an investment clause with it. And for that to happen solely for India at this point, I think that is quite remarkable. It'll be very interesting to see, how that translates into on-ground investments. And I think for Invest India also, that's going to be a lot of task at hand to actually, help capture all of that and help and handhold companies from these regions to actually explore India as a market. So I think it's definitely something that's happened at the right time and it's moving in the right direction. And we hope to see, other trade agreements also uh, culminating to similar outcomes in the future.
Can you also share some success stories of Indian women investors or women-led companies who have thrived in the Indian market with Invest India support? Well, I'd also like to add, or rather mention again, that Neelashi also led the Women Entrepreneurship Platform at Niti Aayog. So, any insights or any success stories you'd like to share with our listeners from that experience?
Yeah, yeah, of course, Alon. So actually, I'll actually pivot to the Niti Aayog part here because at Invest India, and I'll just like to mention that I think Italian businesses are also very male dominated. So unfortunately, I have not yet worked with any Italian company where I saw a female CEO. So I think that's something for our Italian listeners also to take home, that we need to start
Nice.
normalizing that as
Sure.
well. But of course, coming to Niti Aayog, so I was in fact one of the founding team members of the Women Entrepreneurship Platform, as you mentioned. At that time, it was just an idea, and from an idea, it became a website. From a website, it became a platform.
Mhm.
From that platform, we started having, the Women Entrepreneurship Awards that have now become quite prominent. The whole idea of WEP at that time was to make sure that grassroots level inventions are not neglected in the eyes of the larger society, and they also get the wherewithal with the support of the government to actually scale up and succeed in the future. So it came from a very, very nice place. I think we had some amazing mentors to help us with it. We had some great investors who came in. We had a separate investment team that was working on it, whether it was large FMCGs,
Mhm.
CSR funds who thought that they could also step in, or some other functionaries from different fields of life who helped us. We also worked very closely with the UN on these awards and in shortlisting some of those candidates. And what we saw was overwhelming response. I think the first year was great, but the second year was just through the roof. That's when the president also came, and the vice president, sorry, at that time, gave out the awards for these women entrepreneurs. And it wasn't, the idea wasn't just ki, you will get somebody from a tier 3 city, or you'll get somebody from the ground level. The idea was to, of course, judge them on how innovative their business idea was and
Mhm.
how scalable it was. But of course, there was somebody making wine from kiwi in the northeast. Those kind of people definitely need, support, and they need that sort of a platform that women entrepreneurship platform was providing to them. It was basically an all encompassing toolkit that was given, whether it is understanding what are some of the schemes, subsidies, credit, funding that they can get. And we also had some companies and some mentors on boarded who could either do an internship with them, they could do a mentorship program with them, they could train them, um, and they could also, take this forward. Having mentioned that, and since we are discussing Italy, I would like to mention that, during my stint here, we also did something known as an innovation challenge with NL actually, which is an Italian company. And
Mhm.
the innovation challenge basically was that the Italian company gave a problem statement, their global team, and a lot of Indian startups pitched their solutions to them. And finally, they could either absorb them in their team, or they could fund their pilot project, or they could find some synergies in the technologies that were being provided by Italian, startups and Indian startups and entrepreneurs, and take them to that Italian company, and then of course deploy it back to India and other such geographies. So that was also a great, although it wasn't a female centric collaboration, but I just thought that since we're mentioning, that sort of a collaboration, it's important to mention how we are collaborating on so many different levels. And I'm not sure how many people know about these kind of collaborations that are already happening.
No, right. There's just so much to explore. I believe that these two countries, they have a lot of potential, and there's just so much hidden potential that really needs to be explored yet. Um, Nilashi, now coming on to a crucial topic that I believe most of our listeners would be interested in, and also something that I'm curious to get your insights on. Um, so, what do you think are some of the upcoming trends or developments in the Indo-Italian business relations that our listeners should be aware of?
I think, Saloni, this goes back to the first question you asked me about, some of the sectors that we are seeing, or some of the
Right.
areas of collaboration that we are seeing. Of course, that is one part in terms of investments that I can definitely talk about. Trade is something that you already mentioned. I also
Mhm.
spoke of some of the, G2B initiatives that we have taken. I think two things that we didn't discuss, which I can also mention now. One
Mhm.
is, of course, the very strong G2G push that we have at this point between our two countries.
Mhm.
At this point, right? So we are connected, of course, at the highest level. We have that institutional support and backing between the leaders of the two countries. We are very aligned on how we want to take this relationship forward. Last year, we became a strategic partner to each other, and with that, of course, came a lot of confidence in the business communities also of each other's countries. To explore these markets, to enter these markets, even in segments like, let's say, defense or telecom, which
Mhm.
are kind of regulated, where you would probably not have thought so many investments or so many synergies actually coming out. But those conversations have started happening. Those pipelines have started developing. We now have an exclusive airline that has restarted, between India and Italy. So that these are, of course, some of the things that are definitely happening. And it goes the other way also. A lot of Indian companies are actually exploring Italy as a great market, because there's a lot of fitment, right? How Indian consumers think, how Italian consumers think, lots of synergies there also.
Yeah.
So it's a very good market to test new products also in. So I think a lot of those things have been happening, which is something new that I'm observing.
Mhm.
The other is, I think, again, coming back to fashion, I'm seeing a lot of Italian, luxury brands actually coming to India finally. And I think that's also something that is great to see. from a consumer standpoint, but also great from a business standpoint. And what is very interesting is that, for anything that is happening in the business space for Italy, you will see that the Italian government is fully supporting, backing, endorsing it. So when when Veneta opened its store here, that's when, the Italian embassy is also invited to all of those things. So of course, it's a great thing. I think everything is intertwined in a very beautiful manner today, and it's happening in a very seamless manner. And I think there is, of course, a lot of scope. We have just scratched the surface at this point. Like you mentioned, lots to do.
Well, I can't seem to get enough of this discussion. However, we are running out of time. So, drawing things to a close, uh, an advice you'd like to give to aspiring women investors in Italy or in Europe, or to investors in general, who are interested in exploring investment opportunities in India?
So I think I'll take this in two parts. One is more business advice, and the other is personal advice. So in terms of course, businesses, I would definitely say that, India is 100% open to doing business. Invest India is here to handhold, support each and every company. We do not discriminate. We do not charge any money. So of course, please utilize our services. I think it's very important for everyone to be aware that, in case they get lost here, they don't know how to operate, we can help you kind of chart everything from scratch and also scale it in the country. And what I mentioned in the beginning, that now, even help you get the best ROI possible from India. So I think for all of that, it is important to be very aware of what is happening around you, business wise, economy wise. And I think we can definitely, help and handhold all Italian companies looking to invest in India. The other is especially for women entrepreneurs, because having been one in the past, I think a lot has changed, because at that time I remember that, we would go and pitch our startup to investors, and I had a male co-founder.
Mhm.
So even if, I am answering or making the pitch, the eye contact of the investor was always with my male co-founder. So that is something that, I really took to heart, and I'm talking about it after so many years also. But I think that is something that is changing now. And I think my only advice to women co-founders is that take that risk, take that plunge. Everything else happens. There are enough mechanisms and people to support you and take care of you. You just have to ask for it. But if you don't ask for anything, you will not get it. So I think that's the only personal advice I would like to part with.
Well, that's fantastic advice. So thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for taking out the time.
Uh,
It's 7 in India and it's Friday, so I'll not keep you waiting any longer. Thank you for taking out the time, and we'll get in touch soon.
Thank you so much, Saloni. It was a pleasure being here.
Same here. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.